Hey everyone, Kevin Lewis here with Home Life Benchmark Titus Realty, and welcome to your March 2025 Fraser Valley Real Estate Market Update. We're going to break down what's happening, what it means for you, and how to navigate this market like a pro. Let's start things off with the big picture. March has come and gone, and we're seeing some interesting trends that paint a complex picture. It's not a straightforward buyer's or seller's market, so let's dig into the details. One of the most significant things to note is the sales activity, with 934 sales in March 2025. To give you some context, that's the second lowest number of sales for March in the past 20 years, with only March 2009 being lower. That's a pretty stark statistic. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. We did see a 16% increase in sales from February, so there's a bit of an uptick there. And here's another potentially positive sign. It does look like the second half of March was busier than the first half, which might indicate some momentum building as we move further into the spring. However, to keep reality in check, even with that monthly increase, we are still down significantly compared to historical averages. March 2025 sales were 25% lower than last year in March 2024, and a whopping 48% below the 10-year average for the month of March. That really emphasizes the slowdown that we're experiencing in this market right now. So you might be asking, well, what's contributing to all of this and why is this happening? Well, on the other side of the coin, we're seeing higher than average new listings. In March, 3,250 new homes came onto the market. That's up 20% from February and 27% from March 2024, and also 13% higher than the 10-year average for the month of March. Basic economics tells us what happens when you have lower sales and higher listings. Inventory increases. And that's exactly what we're seeing. At the end of March, there were 6,921 homes available for sale in the Fraser Valley. That's the highest inventory we've seen in over a decade. Now, we do have to add some context here, and it's actually quite interesting. While a 10-year high sounds dramatic, it's not entirely out of the ordinary for the Fraser Valley. We saw similar inventory levels for extended periods, 24 months in total, between 2008 and 2014, where we actually had higher inventory than we did last month. This just shows how active the market has been for the last 10 years. We did see those inventory numbers build up to higher numbers than what we're seeing today. One factor I often see overlooked is the amount of growth we've had in the Fraser Valley. We've seen massive development and population increases in the last 10 years. Some conservative estimate is that at least 50,000 new homes have been built in the Fraser Valley alone, and we've gained a huge number of residents. The 2016 to 2021 census showed approximately 250,000 new residents, and the actual number is likely much higher now, but we won't have access to that accurate data until the next census next year. So if we take some time to think about it, with all of this new housing and more people, shouldn't we expect to see inventory naturally increase over time? If that inventory had stayed the same, that would actually suggest a huge drop in market activity. The fact that it's up doesn't necessarily mean the sky is falling. But here's the puzzle. Even with growth, sales aren't consistently increasing year over year. And that tells us something else is going on, and I think there are two major factors. First, people tend to be staying in their homes longer than they used to. This is a trend we're seeing across North America. People are renovating instead of moving, putting down deeper roots, and maybe just not feeling the urgency to relocate quite as often. And the second major reason I've seen is, of course, affordability. It's a tough reality. When first-time buyers can't afford to get into the market, and people who want to move up can't afford to, it creates a bottleneck and it restricts the flow of the transactions. Now, the big question is, can anything change this? Well, there is hope on the horizon. The recent forecasted interest rate decreases are certainly a positive sign for the market. Lower rates should help improve affordability and get more people moving again. But it's not just about rates. We also have other economic uncertainties looming, like potential tariffs and the upcoming federal election. These things create hesitation in the market, and people tend to wait and see before making big financial decisions. As I said in the last couple of videos, once we figure out what's happening with the tariffs, whether they continue to go up or whether they stay or they disappear, once we have a clearer path forward, I think we're going to start to see more people enter into the market again and see more sales happen. Now, despite all of this, it's not all negative. Even with increased inventory, we did see the sales to active listing ratio nudge up a bit from 13 to 14%. Remember, this ratio tells us how many homes are selling out of every 100 homes listed. Anything from 12 to 20% is considered a balanced market, so we're still in that range overall, but it's a slight move towards more activity. Now, of course, we can break this down into different property types, and you get to see the different dynamics of each part of the market. Detached homes are still in a buyer's market with a sale to listing ratio of only 10%, while condos and townhomes are in a balanced market with 14 and 19% respectively. Now, just a quick word of caution about those ratios and the overall inventory numbers that we've been seeing and hearing about all the time. They don't actually tell the entire story, as they don't count for overpriced listings. And in a market like this where prices are adjusting, there are a lot of overpriced listings. Sellers are sometimes slow to accept that the market has changed and you're simply not going to get the same sales price you would have 2.5 years ago. So we have to now look at what does all of this mean if you're thinking of making a move in the near future here. Well, if you're buying and selling at the same time, once again, it's all relative to a degree. There is one thing to consider here. If you expect prices to go up in the future, waiting could mean a bigger down payment when you'll buy your next place because you'll get more for your current home. It also means that you're going to pay more for that next home. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. And of course, we simply don't know when the market is going to start to go back up again. So you could be waiting for a little longer than you're hoping to wait. Now, if you're just selling in this market, pricing is everything. If you overprice your home, it's literally just going to sit there and collect dust on the shelf of the MLS. You might hope for a higher price by waiting, but there's no guarantee when or if that's going to actually happen. Especially not this year, maybe. I do expect to see some growth in the market, but not at any sort of a crazy rate. And of course, if you're looking to buy, even with all the complexities in the market, it might not be such a bad time to make a move. For buyers, affordability is better than it has been in quite some time, and that might not last. We've seen interest rates continue to drop, and we've seen prices stagnate and even come down a little bit year over year, making it prime time to buy real estate because eventually the rates are going to drop to a point where it's just too good for everybody to continue sitting on the sideline, and you don't want to miss the opportunity that could be in front of us right now. That's not to mention the fact that with this slower market, you have far more time and a lot less pressure to make any rush decisions when you're buying your next home, and you can take your time to find the home that really suits your needs, and we can negotiate down to a deal that might be a better deal than we can if the market starts to pick up. Now, my advice in all of this is to talk to a professional. I'm here to help you weigh your options, understand your specific situation, and make the best choices for you. Whether you're buying, selling, or just curious, reach out. It's never too early to start the conversation. Let's connect and make your real estate goals a reality.